Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday, everyone. We'll be starting here in a few moments. We'll let everyone get on and looking forward to a great conversation today. Looking forward to it. We're going to talk about a new perspective in strategy. We're going to talk about new perspective in strategic thinking. And we're definitely going to help you be the most successful you can in 2022 and some things to think about. So as you're joining us, please type in the chat where you're from. So as you're joining us, please type in the chat where you're from so we know where everybody is joining us from. Excellent. Oh, look at that. We've got Indiana, Missouri, Nebraska. Look at all those different states. I love it. Arizona, Pennsylvania, Reno, Florida. Dang, look at all these states. I love it. Texas, Philippines even. Excellent. We're going to give a couple more minutes to let everyone get on. California, Nigeria. Excellent. Love to see all the folks on. So again, as you're joining us, please type in where you're from. Look forward to having everyone part of our webinar here today. As I said, we're going to be talking about a new perspective in strategic planning and a new perspective in strategy. So looking forward to that. We're going to give just 30 more seconds and get everybody on as we're all logging in. We will have a Q&A at the end. So as we go through, please listen and capture some of your questions or type them into the Q&A tab that you have, and we'll make sure that we go through all of the questions at the end of the webinar. All right, now we've gained Colorado, we've gained New Jersey. Look at that, excellent. California, very good, very good. Well, excellent. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Monty White. I'm the CEO of Adding Zeros, a global executive development firm. And we help CEOs and executive teams bring clarity to not only their thinking, their alignment, but also their implementation. And I'm going to talk through a concept today that I think will help each of you understand more of how we help folks do that. But today, our concept, our webinar is titled Unlock Your Company Potential for this year. I can't believe it. I'm hoping that you can't either. We're almost to the end of February. And no matter where we are in the year, we can always take advantage of opportunities and look for different things. My goal today is to give you a couple key things to challenge your thinking and perspective on your strategy and how you're going to win, not only in 2022, but for years to come. So there are 4 topics for today. And you know, what's fun for me today, I do believe that we choose our success. We choose our success by the actions that we take and how we think and how we ensure our team and our organization is going to be successful. So we're going to start off today with a definition of a successful business. I want to share with you my thoughts on that, and it might be slightly different than many of you think. We're going to talk about leadership and management and how they are both needed more than ever today. And third topic, planning isn't enough. I'm going to give you a new perspective on a concept to help you think differently. And lastly, we're going to share with you an opportunity that you can take action on and take benefit of a number of things. You know, it is crazy. The world and every business has gone through unprecedented times over the last 18, 24 months. You know, every business has uncertainty. The great resignation is occurring, and leadership and management are needed more than ever today. And management has to take ownership of that issue, whether it's the great resignation or people needing direction, whatever it might be. We as executives have to think differently. We have to teach our teams to think differently, and we have to challenge ourselves to new perspectives and new actions to be successful. So before I jump into our 4 topics, I just want to give you just a little brief insight on myself. I like to introduce myself with my two passions. And I always start with my family. So I have to introduce my three amazing daughters. And I'm going to start on the far right. On the far right is my newly 16-year-old daughter. This is Janie. She just turned 16. We're not going to see her ever again. She's going to be with her friends. She loves to drive. She loves to be out with her friends. So she just turned 16 as a sophomore in high school. On the far left is my freshman in college. This is Allison. She is studying data science. She loves math. She loves programming. She's doing great. She loves STEM. And that's fun to watch her starting to find her niche. In the center, that's Katie. She's a junior at college, and she's studying industrial engineering. Again, she loves math as well, which is crazy to me. So I love those three girls more than anything in the world. And I share that as my number one passion because it does relate to what I do every day. I spent 14 years in corporate America. Was an agricultural chemical manufacturer. Spent time in 5 or 6 locations around the United States, probably 6 or 7 different jobs during those 14 years. But every role that I had, from sales training to sales management to marketing management, I was there to help others succeed. And my whole goal here today is to help you think differently, change your view of what we've done in the past to what we need to do in the future to make that happen. So that's my goal today, is to help you succeed. And I hope you gain at least one thing that you can put into practice from our conversation today. So, love it. More states coming in. We got Maryland, we got Oregon. So here's my first question, and I want to get some engagement. Again, in the chat box, type in a word or two that you would use to define a successful business. I want to talk about a successful business, but I want your input. What are some words you would use to define a successful business? Go ahead and type them in the chat box. Profitable, absolutely. We got to make money. We don't have happy clients. They're not going to come back. Relevance, very good. Run smoothly, excellent. Values, mission, sustainable. Customer relations, seeing that a number of times. Stress-free, that sounds like a great thing to provide right there. Love that. Scalable, nimble, very good. I love those words. And I think in the definition that I'm going to give you, every one of those are going to connect. And I hope they do anyway, because I think it's a different perspective. So I want to share with you, and this is a definition that I think can be very powerful if we dig into it. A great business is one that's achieving optimal success by being sustainable, predictable, stable, consistent, and has an emotional connection. Here's what I mean by that. When I say sustainable, the decisions, actions that we're taking today should outlast us. We are building a business that should be here long after we are gone. That is sustainable. Predictable is all about, we know when we do action A, we're going to get result B. So it could be sales and marketing, could be our activities, internal or external, serving our customers. We have to become predictable so we know how to invest our resources. Stable is all about our people. We've all been to the place of business, whether it's a restaurant and it's a change in waitress every time we go. It's not sustainable, or excuse me, it's not stable because we see somebody different every time. Stable is about training and developing our people so they stay. Great resignation, I mentioned that earlier. Stable, we have to make sure that people want to work for us. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. Consistent. Again, no matter if it's internal or external, we all expect a company to be consistent no matter who we talk to. That's where our processes come in. That's where our resources come in. And lastly, it has an emotional connection. People love who we are and why we do what we do. Again, that can be from our customer standpoint, or it could be internal. I really believe this as we look at what's going on today with our employee challenge. I think it's a lot because we're missing a lot of these points in a successful business. When we have these things, we will be profitable. But we can be profitable or have great revenue and not have these things. or at least not all of them. So this is the foundation. This definition is the foundation that we're really going to focus on, and that really drives everything that we are after. So that is a big, powerful aspect of it, is our definition of a great business. I want to add one more thing to it. Let me get back here. One more thing to it. I like to say it as, more simply, it's adding zeros. A company is successful when they're adding zeros. It's not just adding zeros in revenue and profit. It's adding zeros in retention, in acquisition of employees and customers, in engagement. We have to add zeros in every aspect of our business. We can't just add zeros in revenue and profit. And that's why I love that name. It's the name of our company, and I love expressing that, because we truly add zeros. Now, to fulfill this definition right here, I do believe this. We need leadership and management more than ever. And so I want to define leadership and management, and I really want you to capture this. Take this and capture it, because it is powerful when you think about it. Leadership is about focus and passion. When I think of leadership, it is all about behavior. We influence through focus and passion. Leadership is not a position, it is a behavior. Management is all about competence and productivity. The role of a manager is to ensure that their team is competent to do the job, and that they're productive in doing that job. They are two different roles, and they're two different actions. The world today, the world today has combined leadership and management. Just because we're in management doesn't mean we are a great leader. Everyone in a company can and should be a leader. Not everyone can and should be a manager. But I also believe today that there's a lot of managers not acting like managers. There's good management, there's bad management, and then there's no management. You got to have good management. And that's why I give this definition, because they are different routines. They're different actions. Leadership brings positive emotion. Leadership has to guide people down the path. Leadership is energy. Anybody can bring that. Management creates logic and results. We've got to have logic and results. We've got to make sure we are making progress, that we're moving things forward. Okay, that's the power. We've got to have both leadership and management. Leadership is a behavior, management is a role. Here is a phrase I want everyone to write down right now. It's not going to be on the screen. I want you to write down: lead people, manage processes. No one on the face of the earth wants to be managed. You don't, I don't. You manage processes. You lead people with energy, excitement, focus, emotion. We manage a process, so we all know how to do it, and we're productive in doing it to get the results that we want. All right, just for fun, I want you to do this in the chat box, okay? In the chat box, I want you to rate yourself 0 to 10. 10, you couldn't get any better. Rate yourself on how well you are, 0 to 10 on leadership, and how well you're doing, 0 to 10 on management. Go ahead and type in an L and an M and then your numbers behind it. 0 to 10. How well are you doing in leadership and management based on how I just defined them? Go ahead and type them in the chat box. Some 8s, some 9s. I like that. Very good. Some more 8s. 8 and 7. I love that you guys are being honest with yourself. I really am, because this is something we as executives, we have to challenge ourselves. We may say, well, that's not my style. I'm not that energetic. If you are leading an organization, if you're in a leadership or management position, you have to have that. You have to have those behaviors. So you may have to grow in that area. So greatly appreciate everybody's honesty. So I want to make a statement, and I want to challenge everyone. My statement is: strategic planning no longer works. Here's what I mean. And I spent 14 years in the corporate world, we did this every year, but for the last 17 years, I've been helping organizations think differently, going through a different process. Strategic planning, yep, we all go away for a 2-day retreat. We're going to put all kinds of stuff on the walls of what we should do. And then after that 2 days, oh man, we partied at night and we played all day and we went golf, but then we got back to work and got back into the 100-mile-an-hour day-to-day actions. I want to introduce to you a concept that's going to help us think differently. And before I do that, I want to share the thought, because there's millions, if not tens of millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on your business, of what we're missing between our strategy and our execution. It's great to say, yep, that's where we're going. That's how we're going to get there. But we didn't have a great execution plan, or we didn't plan for how we're going to make this work. So here's the next phrase I want to make sure you write down. And the phrase is strategic thinking and execution planning. Strategic thinking, execution planning. My belief is we have to be thinking differently. We have to be thinking big picture. We have to be planning for how we're going to get things done. And sometimes we have to put smaller things in front of us in a time period so we can get them done, instead of stressing everyone out and not getting the right activities complete. So I want to give a little description of each. When I think of strategic thinking, this isn't just for you and your executive team. Yes, it is for you and your executive team, but it's also for your team. I want you to teach your whole organization how to think strategically. Now, I want to give you a little more insight. When I think of thinking strategically, we have to ask deeper questions. We have to ask harder questions to help people understand and think about what needs to be done. How are they doing it? Every action that I do today impacts something in the future. Every action that you do today, every action that your team does, because that is the power of thinking. How and what I'm doing impacting others. Strategic thinking is also about how are we proactive? How are we anticipating our future scenarios? What do we need to be building today to anticipate what needs to happen? That strategic connection. And I also believe, and that's the last point I'll share on strategic thinking, is that we've got to be clear in our direction and everyone must be aligned. When we work with clients, everything is in a holistic view. When we act on one thing, how does it affect others? Because we have to make sure that everyone is thinking in alignment to get to that ultimate goal that we're after. So those points are strategic thinking. Execution planning. Execution planning takes discipline. It takes powerful discipline to do things consistently and on an ongoing basis. You know, a big part of execution planning is not just setting priorities and benchmarks and timelines of what success looks like, but it's also about proactively anticipating bottlenecks. When are we going to address them? How do we get there? What is the impact when we take this action? People want to know where they're going and what does success look like. We have to plan for that. And in my view, I do believe that's what's driving a lot of the great resignation. Is many companies out there don't have not only the strategic thinking, but that they're not planning for execution, and employees don't know their role in that activity. So I stated that execution planning takes discipline. I want to introduce to you 5 disciplines that I believe every organization has to have in place to be successful. Okay. So I want to start in the upper right corner with strategy. You know, these are 5 disciplines, and the disciplines are the 5 black bolded phrases, the ones in the circles. The first one is strategy. And actually, I'm going to dig deeper into that one. So I'm just going to give you a little highlight now. When I think of strategy, it's clearly how are we going to win as an organization? So we're going to come back to that one. We have to have business development discipline. Everyone in a company is in customer service. Everyone is in sales. Everyone can be in marketing. But there are some decisions that we have to make regarding business development so that everyone knows how are we fulfilling them? How are we challenging them? The third discipline is people. We as an organization have to own our development of our team. not just as a brand new employee for our onboarding, but ongoing basis. How are we developing their soft skills and their hard skills? Also, it's about recruitment. It's not just that we're short. We got to make sure that we're always attracting the right people. That's the people discipline. The execution discipline is all about how we get things done, our way of working, our processes, how we are going to manage the business. When we do those things, the financials will come into play. Again, lead people, manage processes. The fifth discipline there in green is mission. Now, I want to make sure I state this clearly. The mission discipline is not about a mission statement. Mission discipline is all about who we are and why we do what we do. I want to just spend a second here. I think this box, or this circle, I should say, is one of the things that so many people are missing out on. A mission statement can be so far out. This is where we're working towards. A purpose statement is part of mission. A purpose statement is, why do we work every day? Why are we doing what we do? Everybody should be connected to that. And if they're not, maybe this isn't the right place. That's the power of discipline. All of these things need to happen every single day, every single week. Okay. So I do believe it's discipline. Now I want to introduce a second concept on this slide, and it's the words where the circles are overlapping. And I'm going to call these constituents. So when we think about a business, how do we know if we're successful? We have to satisfy the constituents as well. And it's not just the shareholders. And I'll start there. I have stakeholders on the screen. Yes, they might be our investors. They might be our board. They might be the executive team, whatever it might be. But there are other constituents that we have to satisfy to make sure that we, again, are fulfilling that definition of a great business that I shared. So I want to start at the top with the company. I do believe that we have to satisfy the company constituent, again, to be here long term. That might be, we got to make sure the profit is there. What's our strategy to be here long term? How are we growing our business to make sure that we're here long term? Because we have to have the funds to invest, to expand. Our next constituent is the customer. Yes, we have to have business development and customer service. How are we teaching our people the right things to do to treat the customer? I think this is one area that so many places, they are not training their team well enough to treat the customer like a true appreciated asset, because a customer is an asset to us. If we don't treat it well, it's going to go away. The next constituent is the team. Again, I think this is one that can easily get off track or not focused on. If the team isn't happy, they certainly aren't going to treat the customer well. So we have to satisfy the team. How are we doing that? I mentioned the stakeholder. Absolutely. We have to satisfy the stakeholders so that they're getting the return on that investment that they desire. The last constituent that I want to mention here briefly is community. When we're a successful business, I don't care where you're located, I do believe it's one of our duties to make sure that we are giving back to our communities, making sure that we have schools, we have parks, we have organizations that keep people wanting to move to our towns, because that's building us as an organization. If we stay silent, nobody knows who we are, we're not building our community for future employees, for future opportunities. So this is a powerful thing. And again, I want to ask you to type in the chat box for a moment here. I want you to type in, which discipline do you believe your organization could benefit the most from right now? Is it strategy? Is it business development, people, execution, or mission? Go ahead and type one of those disciplines in the chat box if you would. I see business development. Very good. Appreciate your honesty. People. Excellent. Community. You know, when we work on the 5 disciplines, we ultimately will satisfy these constituents. And, you know, one of the things that we offer a 5 disciplines assessment. And so if that's something that you want to take advantage of as we get to the end of our webinar here, certainly send us a note and follow up, and we'll talk to you about a 5 disciplines assessment. You know, this content that you see in the disciplines and constituents can also be found in a best-selling book called Pulling Profits Out of a Hat. You might recognize one of the authors there on the screen. You can get this at Amazon or myself, so do appreciate everybody's support there. We did some great work, and I love the disciplines concept. I mentioned I was going to dig deeper into strategy. So I want to share some components that I think will impact 2022 greatly when you think about these items. So I'm going to go deep into these 4 points. We're going to talk about opportunity, leverage, scalability, and marketability. I want to start with opportunity. I'm going to define it first as these are the wants or needs that we are choosing to fill in the marketplace. Notice this isn't talking about a product or a service that you have. It first starts with what is the opportunity from the customer perspective? What are their wants or needs that we're going to choose to fill and correct or provide services to that everybody's needing? Maybe they don't know they need it, but this is a challenge that they have and we can fill it. This bringing this clarity in a sentence or two brings power to how our employees communicate to customers, how we market, how we think about the value that we can provide. We first have to define the opportunity we're choosing to fill. That's a critical component of strategy. Again, when I talk about strategy, this is a discipline that's ongoing to help us fulfill that definition of a great business. Sustainability, predictability, stability, consistency, and has an emotional connection. The second word of strategy to touch on is leverage. Leverage, going to define that as it's getting more done with less effort. Now, I want you to think about this in a holistic view and think about how you're going to grow and succeed as a company with leverage. For example, I would venture to guess that a majority of people on our webinar today have Netflix, or they've bought movies from Amazon Prime or things like that. What is a point of leverage that those organizations have built their business model on? Their points of leverage are around technology. They can stream hundreds of thousands of movies at the same time all around the world. That's leverage. That is what something that every one of you on this call and in your organization needs to constantly be thinking about. What's our point of leverage, or our multiple points of leverage that we have to define to help make us successful long term? It's not about efficiency. Yes, you want to make it efficient, but it's about success of the company. You got to get that holistic and big picture view. So opportunity, what's the want or need in the market that we're going to fill? Leverage is how can we get more done with less and be our leverage point for a successful long-term business. Third word, scalability. Scalability is about our ability to duplicate or grow sales exponentially. And I want you to ask that question. Can we duplicate or grow sales exponentially right now? Can we handle it? And if you answer yes, then you should push hard, that you can fulfill what you've committed to with your clients. If you say no, you need to ask this question: what do we need to duplicate, or what do we need to build or change to handle the growth? Scalability is going to a new market, going to a new geography, expanding, but you have to ask that question. Could we handle it today? And what's going to keep us from handling it? This has to be part of the strategy discussion, because if we cannot handle the duplication, or we cannot handle exponential growth, it's going to cause us a slow death, possibly a fast death. Okay. Last word, marketability. Marketability. We're going to identify the opportunity, the need or want. We've got our leverage points. Yes, we can duplicate, but how easy is it to access our audience? That's what marketability is. It's ease of accessing that audience, but also the ease of them understanding what we do based on how we're communicating. So many organizations are out there marketing. They're spraying and praying to the world, so to speak. They're not accessing their audience. They're hoping that somebody buys when they see their ad. But a lot of times in that marketing piece, they don't understand what we do. This is part of strategy. And we as an executive team are paid to think. And we have to help define some of this and give the organization direction. So I gave you at a high level in a short amount of time, those 4 words and those points, because when you answer those 4 points, we go to the next question. And the question is, can you state your company's strategy in 1 sentence? Here is the concept. Here is the concept, because you need to ensure that your entire organization knows how we're going to win, what does success look like, but also in their position. What do I have to do to help the organization succeed? Now, I want to give an example of this. And if you've read any of the business books out there, you may have heard this, but Southwest Airlines have been in business probably close to 50 years now. And they have a clear 1-sentence strategy. In fact, it's only 2 words. And the 1-sentence strategy is wheels up. Everyone in the organization knows it. Everyone in the organization knows their role to fulfill it. For example, if I'm checking in passengers, I need to make sure I do it correctly. I need to make sure that it's timely. If I'm the one putting the luggage on the plane, I need to make sure that I'm doing it well so we can take off on time. If I'm helping people find their seat in the plane, I need to do it efficiently so we can take off. They don't make money. This is their strategy. We make money when the plane's in the air. And so everybody knows how they will win. Business is just a game, but most people don't know what winning looks like for the company or their position. So when you answer those 4 points, opportunity, leverage, scalability, marketability, and then this point right here of stating our strategy in 1 sentence, we teach it to our team. Now people can get excited. Now we know how they will win. So my big challenge for you is, what is your 1-sentence strategy? And how do we get it easily communicated so everyone can follow through? I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have an assessment called the 5 disciplines assessment around those key disciplines that I taught. Because the question is, how do we know if we're successful in our strategy, or if we have discipline in our strategy? Well, we've identified 3 questions, and these are just 3 of the 50 questions that we ask in that assessment. But these are powerful things. And I want you to mark on your piece of paper a yes or no behind these questions as I ask them. Our strategy is known by 100% of our management and our entire team, and they can clearly articulate our direction and plan. Yes or no? We're successful in our strategy if there is absolute clarity about our organizational priorities and everyone knows how they personally support those priorities. Answer that yes or no. Last one, we're successful in our strategy if we have identified and our team has committed to our long-term goals, our annual goals, and they support our future. This is a powerful way to think about it. Now, I want you to just imagine this, that your organization answered yes to all 3 of these questions. What would be going on in your business if everyone answered yes to these 3 questions? What kind of results would we be getting? How fast would we be moving? That's the power of creating discipline in your organization. Now, how I relate that definition of a great business to the 5 disciplines, strategy connects to sustainability. We get long-term benefit out of answering all of these aspects of it. So we want to make sure that we're building great success. So as you're untapping the potential for 2022, we have to answer these questions so we can be focused correctly and going down the right path. Okay. As I think about the 5 disciplines, there are a lot of decisions to make. Just like I said, 1-sentence strategy, or even what our opportunity is. Those are decisions. in every discipline, we have decisions that we have to make, but then we have to truly implement and make sure that we put them into practice every single day. You know, I'll just poke on one for just an example. I've gone into organizations. These are clients of mine, past clients. You know, always ask, do you have values? Oh yeah, we have them around here somewhere. We don't, but they don't know what they are. I was in a boardroom once and they were on the wall behind and the room couldn't tell me what they were. That means they had no discipline around who they were. Yep, we went through the exercise. It's about discipline and having it in an ongoing basis. So that's the power. All right, we've gone fast here. I got a few more things I want to do, and then I'm going to answer a number of questions. We've defined a successful business, which is one that is sustainable, predictable, stable, consistent, and has an emotional connection. Leadership and management are needed more than ever. Leadership is influence through passion and focus. It brings positive emotion. Management creates competent and productive team members. It creates logic and results. Planning isn't enough. We need strategic thinking and execution planning. So here's what I want everybody to do, and I want you to do this in the chat box. I want everybody to write down 1 or 2 takeaways that you've had from our webinar. I want you to write down 1 or 2 takeaways, and then I want you to be thinking about a question that you want to ask. And when that time comes, we're gonna do the Q&A here in just a moment. When that time comes, I want you to put that question in the Q&A. But go ahead and write down in the chat box now, what are 1 or 2 of your takeaways that you gained from our webinar today? Go ahead and type them in. Oh, I love that one. Lead people, manage processes. Absolutely. A couple more in there. The definition of a successful business. Most people don't know what a definition is. Hey, we're successful. We made money this year. Well, we lost half of our employees. So are we still successful? Leadership is influence through passion and focus. Excellent. Thank you, Sade. Yes, there is a huge difference between leadership and management. So love to see those points there. Yes, it is all about discipline. So thank you for sharing those values. And again, I want you to think about a question you want to ask. Go ahead and type it in the Q&A. Before we get to the Q&A, I just want to go through a couple more items with you to show you some value from our time today. So again, the concept is strategic thinking and execution planning. We've got to think differently and we've got to plan for execution. So just for being on our webinar today, each of you are going to receive 6 white papers on our concept here. We're going to be sharing PowerPoints that you can go deeper into the disciplines. So just for being part of today, you get those powerful white papers. One of the things that we are very proud of, and it's just a great resource, we have an online course that goes deep into the 5 disciplines. And it is a quick start to understanding these. And you can watch them with your team. You can do great things. There's 24 videos and some worksheets that go with it. It's normally $9.99. It is $3.99. Okay. So if you purchase this online training course by the end of tomorrow, by the end of Tuesday, February 22nd, you get it for $3.99. So that's our online course. Use it, share it with your team, talk through it with your team. So that's offer number 1. The second offer is having a strategic thinking execution planning session with a certified facilitator. What we will do in this 2-hour session with your executive team, so it's you and your executive team, we're going to help you identify what does winning look like throughout the organization. How are we going to address the blind spots of getting there? And how do we create an implementation culture that everyone is aligned? And how do we lead people and manage processes? So that's a 2-hour session. That's $14.95. You commit to that by March 15th, it's $14.95. March 16th, it goes to $19.95. This is a huge value for a 2-hour session with a certified facilitator with Adding Zeros. So that's offer number 2. The third offer, and I'm very excited about this. We are at the beginning of starting to do a lot of live events. Our next live event is going to be in Phoenix, Arizona, April 28th and 29th. And very excited about this. This is a time over a 2-day period for you and your executive team to work through a lot of these exercises, a lot of these thoughts. So I'll be doing teaching, we'll be doing discussions, you'll be sharing ideas with other management teams that aren't from your area. So this is going to be excellent. So again, I think this is a huge opportunity. $24.95 for 2 attendees. March 15th. After March 15th, it goes up to $29.95. So that's offer number 3. A couple things I want to add to this. This does include the online course that I mentioned. This does include doing a 5 disciplines team assessment in your organization. So want to make sure that you are powerful and intentional in having these discussions. So this is a great way to do that in that setting. You get away from your office. All right. Here are the links, and we'll certainly email them out afterwards, but here are the links to get to those offers. And I would imagine some of you are going, I don't know which one is best for me. You know, at a minimum, I want to suggest that you set an appointment today. Follow this link and set an appointment to determine which of these offers are best for you, because we want to help you best. Our goal is to make sure that you have clarity in how you lead and manage your organization. And our outside perspective is going to help you get there. All right. So thank you all for your participation so far. I want to go to the Q&As that have been coming through, and I want to address some of the questions. Let me see what we've got here. All right. First question I see is one-sentence strategy. One-sentence strategy, how do you use that? Is it just internal, or is it something everyone should know outside as well? You know, here's my view. Strategy should be tight to the chest. We should understand our strategy as an organization. Everyone should understand it, so they know how they support it and what their daily job does to move us closer to achieving and fulfilling that strategy. Now, I mentioned Southwest Airlines strategy. There's been books written on that organization. You know, they're large enough now that it's not a big deal that people understand it, because that's how they fully have implemented it. But my encouragement is we get it so clear, we teach our people what it means, how their role fits for emotional connection, but it's something that should stay inside the organization. Okay. I'm going to go down to the next question here. Will we be given a handout on the recording? You will be receiving the recording after this, so you can watch it again, take your notes again. That is the power of this, that you get the recording and you get the information so you can implement. Again, I want you to encourage you to take advantage of these offers here. A couple more questions. Next one is, how will this event or the online training benefit us? All right, the concept of strategic thinking and execution planning, again, it takes discipline. One of our objectives in that 2-day event, and even in the 2-hour session, is to teach some concepts, but then help you learn through implementation. How are we going to make this happen? That's a big piece of it, is teaching, discussion, and implementation. So the live events with the facilitator, the 2-hour session or the 2 days, that is huge. The online training is very much an educational video series on the concepts, 5 disciplines, 5 constituents, and that's a great learning activity. Now, there are worksheets in that to help you discuss as an organization and make your decisions, and then have the discipline to continue. Okay, let's see here. All right, another question is, how do you work with clients? You know, I call ourselves, we are facilitators. We are not coaches, we're not consultants. Yes, we might coach you. Yes, we might give you some different thoughts, but our role is to facilitate the process of strategic thinking and execution planning. Well, what does that mean? We facilitate you through the 5 disciplines, facilitate through making the decisions in those 5 disciplines, and then taking action on how are we going to make it part of our daily lives. We do that through having a 2-day retreat. We start with a 2-day retreat, and then we have ongoing quarterly planning days every 90 days. So we review our progress and make our plans for the next quarter. In between those quarterly planning days, we have executive development and implementation phone calls. And it's for accountability, it's for follow through. We do those phone calls, those executive development, to raise the entire executive team together. We do a lot of executive development and organizational development, but we want to raise the business. I truly believe that the leadership team, the executive team, is the ceiling of the business. And you have to raise the whole team together as an executive team to get there. Okay. So if you'd like to learn more, please sign up for one of our events or sign up for a one-on-one, and we can continue to have that discussion. Let me look one more time to see if there are any other questions that I may have missed. All right. So now I've got one last question for you. Are you adding zeros or are you adding 0? I want this to be a holistic view for you. I want you to make 2022 a fantastic year. I want to help you do that. And it is changing our way of thinking. The world has to change to get through this. And that's the power of creating discipline in different areas and having a facilitator help with that. So again, unlock your company for 2022. Look forward to it. Please go back to those offers. You'll get an email with a link to the video of today and the links to those offers again. And look forward to talking with you. If you have any other questions, I'll stay on for another few seconds, but I know everybody's time is valuable. So I want to say thank you for joining us today and keep adding zeros. If you do have more questions, please feel free to type them in and I'll stick around a little longer. So thanks everyone. Keep up the great work.